Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social Podcast. Another episode today about another American World Cup. Today we'll be taking a look ahead at the third round of the World Cup already in Iowa, the Jingle Cross. And with me here to do that is Twan.
Hello.
As said, the third round of the World Cups brings us to Iowa for the Jingle Cross. Twan, what do you know about the parcours there?
So for the course, the most important thing is that you get up the hill very well, and then the rest of the course you kind of have to use to extend the gap. There isn't too many places I feel like where you can make a difference. There is like a second hill where I think with some interesting tactics you can maybe force your opponents to like get off the bike, for example, which could make for a very interesting one. But the rest of the lap, it looks quite good to just like keep on the wheel of someone. Of course, once you're gone from them, it's actually a good place to put them under pressure and to make the gap bigger.
Yeah, that's kind of what I remember from the parkour as well. Of course, last year it got cancelled due to the pandemic, but we look good to go here. 3 days of racing here. A couple of riders will also be racing the days before, so we'll get a bit of a better taste of the parkour then. The weather forecast for a change actually is looking dry. So on a dry parkour like this, I immediately am looking at Eli Iserbyt.
Yeah, it looks like one of those days where he could perform very well. Of course, was very good here in past encounters. A thing though, like he struggled Wednesday in Fayetteville getting an exit onto the hill, and I feel like that's again going to be very important in Iowa. So he's going to have to get his tire pressures, tire choice, etc. right to actually be able to make the gap toward his competitors, probably Quinten Hermans and Toon Aerts.
I mean, that's very true, but it's going to be dry, so then it's going to be a
Yeah.
bit less of a deal, the tire pressures and things. But I agree, he needs to get things right because Quinten Hermans looks very, very strong. So I think, in my opinion, Iserbyt and Hermans are the favorites.
For sure, and then you'll have Vanthourenhout hoping to throw himself in the mix, and it will be interesting to see what Aerts is able to do. Hasn't had the best of luck in the USA yet.
Definitely not, and that's kind of why I'm also tending away from Aerts. I've been backing Aerts for quite a while this season. Backed him before Gita, also backed him before Waterloo. And even for Fayetteville, I was still backing him, but I feel like he was good, but that crash really hampered him. I do not know how good he is able to recover because there's a long transfer from Fayetteville to Iowa. It's a faster course. On a faster course, I think he always struggles a bit more compared to Iserbyt. Iserbyt really loves these faster park courses, whilst Aerts likes the heavier courses. So I do not expect wonders from Toon Aerts. And you also mentioned Vanthourenhout. And I mean, Vanthourenhout, he's very consistent this season, always up there around the podium position. So yeah, I would also expect Vanthourenhout to be up there. But Vanthourenhout isn't really the winner of out of these riders.
Yeah, depending on how the race might go, right? We have seen, I think, throughout the season that once he gets to like a head-to-head race with Iserbyt, that Iserbyt over the course would become more like dominant in that situation. But I do think that if they get into a tactical situation with Quinten Hermans, it might just be for Vanthourenhout.
Yeah, I would agree on that. I think in a tactical situation where Iserbyt and Hermans look at each other, that Vanthourenhout could be the one to profit there. And yeah, I do feel like that could happen. But in my opinion, at least from what I've seen in these past races here in the US, it really looked like Hermans and Iserbyt were a bit better than the rest. And Aerts in Waterloo, at some point, he started lapping at the same pace as Iserbyt and even a bit faster. So it really shows that Aerts is good. Despite that crash, he was able to start riding the same pace as the front of the race. But then again, that crash really had an impact on him. We saw it in Fayetteville, and for me, really, what gives me the thought that Aerts won't do good is the way he absolutely collapsed in an already short race in Fayetteville. So I think for Aerts, he should go on to damage limitation. He's already 28 points behind in the standings, and I mean, it's a lot of points to pull back because I think I wouldn't be surprised if he ends like somewhere around places 5, 6, and then yeah drops further back in the standings.
Yeah, that is already a surprisingly big gap, actually. I didn't think it would be that quick and it would open up that quick. He needs a strong ride, I think. I feel like already to just put himself a bit closer, at least, like stay up there. It's gonna be he's gonna need to be closer than 20 points before Van Aert, Van der Poel, and Pidcock return to the field.
Yep, definitely agree on that one. Another couple of names that I would want to put forward here on this parcours. What do you think about Lars van der Haar? I mean, he had a bad race in Fayetteville, but on a fast parcours, we've seen him do well this season, and in Waterloo, he wasn't bad either.
Yeah, the biggest question is that big hill, of course. If he can get up there solidly every single lap, then I think he is gonna certainly be around the top five and maybe even a little bit more. But if he is more consistently having to run it, then it's going to be a big problem.
Any other names that you think could have a strong showing here?
After Fayetteville, I might be looking to Pim Ronhaar to maybe put in a very good performance again. Of course, also that was a tougher race, but still quite a bit of climbing, so that might be very interesting to him as well.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that one. Ronhaar had a bit of a setback in the first round in Waterloo, but I do agree this should be something for Ronhaar. Perhaps I hope to see an improvement from Ryan Kamp, but that's a bit of a question mark. He hasn't looked that great this year, but I am actually looking forward to see what Niels van der Putten can do, because usually he does quite good on these faster parcourses as well, and we could just find one here in Waterloo with a bit of climbing, which should suit him as well.
Yeah, and he has been on an amazing run so far, currently in fifth place in the World Cup, certainly finding a great vein of form.
Well, then a final name that I would like to mention. It's maybe a bit of a dark horse here, but I have the feeling that Vincent Baestaens, number 7 of Waterloo, could do a really good job here. He skipped Fayetteville, so he isn't aiming for the overall classification. He's riding the C2 Jingle Cross on Friday, and then he's skipping the Saturday and then racing on Sunday. What do you think that he could do?
It is an interesting one. He's going to save himself a lot of travel time, and he has saved himself quite a tough race to better acquaint himself with the course. And I think it was a good choice for Vincent Bastaans. Of course, not really here to challenge for the overall World Cup at all. So trying to get a season career or a career best result maybe in the World Cup would be something that he's aiming for. And I think he has planned his week in the US very well to set himself up for that.
Yeah, I certainly think Bastaans will be a name we will find in the top 10. On a very good day, I think he could be close to a top 5, but I think he will be around the likes of Jens Adams, and then, of course, a couple of names we already mentioned, like Niels van der Putten, Lars van der Haar, Pim Ronhaar. He will be around these riders fighting for a position somewhere in the middle of the top 10, and I think that's something he can be very satisfied with. Well, a final note maybe on the men's race is Gage Hecht, the number 8 in Fayetteville. Do you think that he can equal that performance or maybe even do better in here in Iowa City?
I'd have to ask, is he racing any of the crosses today or Friday and Saturday?
No, he isn't on the start list for any of those races this weekend. Only the World Cup on Sunday.
Okay, that sounds quite good. Just resting up for the important event of the week. Um, yeah, I think he might be going for a top 10 again. A bit harder. I think he's more of a power kind of guy and really in for like the tough crosses. As you see, for example, the start of a season on the faster races, he wasn't really able to compete with someone like Bastaans, still being quite a few places behind him. So it's not quite as good a course for him. But the fact that he's resting up, I think it's good for him, and hopefully he can get towards that 10th place again.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely be aiming for a top 10 if he can get it. Difficult. Personally, I don't see it happening. I think he will be somewhere in the top 15, but I think it will be very hard for him to end in that top 10, especially with now also Bastaans there, and I expect Bastaans to do it better, especially on the faster courses, considering what I saw in the US CX series. Anyway, let's make some predictions here, Twan. What do you reckon for the podium places?
I'll predict a Quinten Hermans win ahead of Iserbyt and Michael Vanthourenhout.
I am going to go with a win for Iserbyt in front of Quinten Hermans, and let's spice it up for the third place, Lars van der Haar. Well then, let's take a look ahead at the women's race. So far, both rounds have been a battle between Brand and Vos. Do you expect more of that in Iowa?
Yeah, I expect to see those two women at the front again. Hopefully, some of the others will be able to join them, but expect another tactical masterclass of sitting in second place by Marianne Vos and Brand trying to drop her on the climbs. It will be a very interesting one once again. Hopefully, indeed, some people to mix it up.
Yeah, what kind of riders are you looking at in the hope that they mix it up then?
Adding Betsema, for example, and Capablanca Vos, they could make it very interesting on the hill, forcing Vos to maybe go chasing after them and, well, basically helping each other in breaking Vos and go to an easier sprint maybe. Because you don't want to take Marianne Vos to the line, it's going to be very dangerous. Although Lucinda Brandt has also got quite the kick on her.
I will personally also be looking at the likes of Helene Clausel, who wasn't there in Fayetteville, and of course as well Magali Rochette to try and spice things up. They've been on great form this season, so I expect them to be there in the mix as well for a top 5 position.
Yeah, also certainly parcourses that suit them more than this past Wednesday. I would say from like past seasons, and especially Rochette was quite surprisingly good Wednesday.
Yeah, I definitely agree. She was on our podcast last year, and then she said she hoped to top 10 at the World Championships and that there was still a lot of improvement to be made. Well, she made that improvement because on a course like that last year, we would have expected her somewhere around 20th place or something, I guess. And now she's in the top 10, but also not just in the top 10, comfortably in the top 10, fighting for top 5, top 3 position. So yeah, I would expect another top 10 finish here from Rochette.
Yeah, not scared to take on the race, which is always very fun to watch.
Then we have a couple of question marks, riders who have shown form this season, but they haven't been as consistent. Then I'm mainly talking about Vorst and Kastelein. To some extent, Pieterse, she was very good on a fast course in Bredene, and then dropped off a little bit. Not a shame, of course. What do you expect from these riders? Do you expect that they might be a bit better, or do you expect them to be somewhere in the bottom half of the top 10?
I think again they'll be in that group around fifth place, and it's just kind of a group with a bunch of riders that I'm like, I kind of hoped you would like kick on and be in that first group and like make a really huge group, basically fighting it out for victory. But it hasn't quite happened for all of them, basically.
Yeah, I agree on that. Like for Worst, it's definitely better than what it was last year, but it's still not where it was 2 seasons ago. And for Kastelein, I kind of feel the same. It's better, but still not great. And her campaign here has been a bit disappointing in the USA. Of course, there can be reasons for that. She had a mechanical in Waterloo, and then you have, of course, the long travel. Not everyone goes good on such a long travel. Some need more time to recover from that. It sounds strange recovering from travel, but you did a race. You have a long transfer after that. It doesn't help for your recovery. And if you've been in a car or a plane for a long time, it does weird things with your body. I don't know how to explain it, but always when I drive to France to go on holiday, when you haven't done anything that day, but still when you arrive after a long day of driving, you're tired. So there can be reasons, but then personally looking at especially the trend for Kastelein, I do not expect her to do great here in Iowa. For Worst a bit more, and for Pieterse even a bit more, because I would argue that Pieterse has had the most solid performances out of those riders so far in the USA.
Yeah, really showing yourself deep into the race at Fayetteville, which is just something you can be very proud of at that age as well, of course. Just a great way to finish out that race and yeah, on to bigger and better things.
Two last names. This time we have to mention Honsinger on our podcast. What do you expect for Honsinger?
I think it might be a bit quick for her, and she's gonna get into trouble at the start again, probably. So I hope she can do a top 10. but I wouldn't be too surprised if she just couldn't, like, if she lost too many positions at the start and just couldn't really make them up anymore.
Yeah, definitely. That's what I think as well. And a good start in Iowa is pretty crucial because you have a fast section, then there's an off camber, and then you're pretty quickly onto that climb. And if you're at the front, you will definitely be able to ride it. But when you're at the back, you will probably need to walk, and then you lose a lot of time. So for Honsinger, I'm looking at potentially a 10th place, somewhere between 10th, maybe 9th, or otherwise just outside of the top 10. Definitely no great things expected from her. A last dark horse I would like to mention here is Inge van der Heijden. She hasn't had the best results either yet in the USA, but on the fast parcours I always think, maybe van der Heijden can do something.
Yeah, that is indeed an interesting name. Usually good on these type of courses. We saw it, of course, when she became U23 world champion in Bogense. Just a very talented rider, and she finds a course that could suit her very well.
Let's make some predictions then. Twan, what do you think for 1, 2, and 3?
I think we'll see a win for Marianne Vos ahead of Lucinda Brand, and for third place we'll go with Magali Rochette.
Interesting. So you think that Brand won't be able to drop Vos?
No, I think she really needed all the laps and like all of the climb to put Vos out of her comfort zone, and I don't think Iowa is going to be quite as tough on that front.
But do you expect a peloton cross again then?
I think we'll see a group of about 10 women for a long time, and it will bunch up and stretch out, and eventually Brand will push on to try and drop Vos, and then it will just, split into pieces finally.
So more the waiting game rather than the tactical game that we saw in Waterloo.
It's still very tactical, of course, but I think it's a course where they have shown over the last two races that they use the parts where they can make differences, but then it kind of got slowed down and they just wore out the people behind as they had to catch up and put in effort where they were taking it easier again. And yeah, I think they will keep on doing that and try and battle for it.
Before I actually make my prediction, I realized that I forgot her name. Jolanda Neff, she was 4th in Waterloo on a fast parcours. Arguably on a parcours that suited her better in Fayetteville, she was outside of the top 10. It leaves me with a big question mark behind her name. That's also what I marked behind her name, a big question mark. What do you think that she can do? Because I really don't know personally. I think what she showed in Waterloo was good, and then what she showed in Fayetteville was utterly disappointing. I don't know. I think on one hand, I wouldn't be surprised to see her up there again. On the other hand, I wouldn't be surprised if really the tiredness after a long mountain bike season is kicking in.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think Iowa is more of a course for her, not quite as cross technical as maybe Fayetteville was with the mud, and maybe she just struggled a bit with that. We saw it in Waterloo as well. Like cross technical, it wasn't quite there, right? And hopefully she can just enjoy her racing and is indeed fit enough to actually put in a maximum performance.
Well, then now I am going to make my prediction. I think that Brandt is going to take the win here in front of Marianne Vos, and then for third place I am going to be a bit bold and cheeky and go with Puck Pieterse. Well, Twan, I think our predictions will need to see how they last over the weekend. And thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me on.
We'll be recapping the race in Iowa. That podcast will be coming out on Tuesday or Monday late on the day. We won't be recording straight after the race as the race finishes around 12 our time, and that's simply too late to still record, edit, everything. So we'll be recording that on Monday. Anyway, thank you all for listening, and we will be back then after Iowa. Goodbye.